UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you've had a wonderful Saturday. It's been a bit of a bit of not tense, but a very cold one here back in Kampala in quite spectacular fashion. That's why you see I have a jacket on, and yeah, it's been that kind of day. It rained so heavily, so the day went by in a cold manner, really. And you know, when it rains, things tend to be slow. The environment out there doesn't seem pretty. I don't know. And for people who are party animals, I usually wonder how they do it. And for me, today is one of those days where when you wonder, you're like, for the people who are going out, how are you guys making it? How are you guys doing it? You know? But anyways, it is what it is. And they managed to make it what they make it. And we are back. We are back. Football is back. It did return officially yesterday, and it has continued today. So we'll be discussing that and more in today's broadcast. We'll be speaking about Sunderland. We'll talk about Manchester City. We're really, really, really sensational. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about Tottenham Hotspurs. Really, really impressive on their day. Guys, I'm trying to get rid of a capture here that seems to be taking forever, and I'm wondering why. But anyways, let me find a different solution. But I hope you guys had a wonderful day. I hope you guys had a good day. So those are the things we'll be speaking about. Then, of course, we'll get to speak about the transfers, the latest from the world of transfers, because movement continues to happen in as far as transfers are concerned. Barcelona were in action today, and they did win their game by 3-0 against the 10-man Mallorca. So we'll be talking about that, and I hope the Barcelona fan favorites do get to join us in today's broadcast. Then also, as we speak, that game between Valencia and Real Sociedad is ongoing. So I'll be trying to follow the updates from there. It's in the first half, but yeah, that's the gist of the day. Then we'll also get to speak about the African Nations Championships. There were some games played today. That's between. Excuse me. I can see we have a comment. For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. It's exactly 11 p.m. East African time, and welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Monique says, "Can I get a shout out?" Hi, Monique. Where are you joining us from? Leave me down a comment. I'll give you your shout outs. I'll read your comments. But also, more importantly, please subscribe to the channel and help me to 2,000 subscribers. But also consider liking the broadcast, and do let me know where you're joining us from this Saturday evening / morning / night, depending on what your time zone is. I'm sure our people in India, it's about 1 a.m. For our people in the UK, it's about 9 p.m. and things like that. So leave me down a comment, and I'll be giving you your shout outs. Let's engage. Let's chat about what did transpire today in the Premier League and beyond, in as far as match day 1 is concerned. Because as we speak, Manchester City are at the summit of the Premier League. Will they be dethroned? Well, only 38 games will tell. Maybe it may not take all that, but at least they are on the summit of the Premier League, following a very, very impressive start to the season with a burst for Brad Erling Haaland, a goal for a debutant, for two Premier League debutants in Tijan Reinders, as well as Ryan Cherki, who came off the bench to score quite in a spectacular fashion. Now, my prediction was that Manchester City would win, although the prediction was a 2-1 victory for Pep Guardiola's side. However, they blew me away. The manner in which they handled Wolverhampton Wanderers, they basically ran them tired. You know how Manchester City overpass that ball and make you forget that they're about to do anything serious? Well, practically that was it. And when you see that first goal, good interplay between Tijan Reinders takes off a couple of players out of his way and makes that more of a flick pass overhead that lands well for Rico Ruiz, who then passes it for Brad Erling Haaland within the box. He makes that layout well expecting that Brad Erling Haaland is going to be at the end of it, and he did it in spectacular fashion, in pure Brad Erling Haaland fashion. So he did open the account for Manchester City this season and his personal account as he looks to reclaim his golden boot, perhaps to dethrone Mohamed Salah, who won it last season with a tally of 28 goals. So Brad Erling Haaland was off to a flying start, and 3 minutes later, Tijan Reinders did provide. He did score his own goal, again in quite spectacular fashion. Simple, quick, break, and then Manchester City, after winning the ball back in the middle of the park, were on their way, and Tijan Reinders was at the end of an Oscar Bob pass to convert that one to make it 2-0, which sent us into halftime. In the second half, Wolverhampton Wanderers looked a bit dominant in the opening minutes of the second half. They looked a bit too comfortable, which is always worrying, because when Manchester City let you have the ball, better be assured that if the moment you commit a mistake, they're going to punish you, and it will be a quick break. And basically, that's what really happened. As as Brad Haaland scored in the 61st minute to make it 3-0, with Tijan Reinders providing the assist. I mean, when you watch some of these goals, it was typical Pep Guardiola football, tic-tac football. Pep Linders must have been really impressed at the way he plays that cutback and quite low-lying pass. But Haaland runs onto it and strikes it with his strong left foot, and he hits the back of the net, going beyond. Of course, I think Jose Sa had a bit of a brush on it, but it wasn't enough to send it out of the direction of the goal, and so it was 3-0. And then, of course, Francheki was a second half substitute, did score to make it 4-0 as Manchester City walked away from Mourinho with a clean sheet and all 3 points. Again, I thought it was overall a very dominant performance from Manchester City, when you could expect 59% up to ball possession. Shots on target, they had 4, and they were all goals. So they were all goals. In some, particularly maybe for the third goal, you thought maybe he could have done a little better. Jose Sa, because he's capable of being better, and maybe the fourth goal. But when you look at the goal, when you look at the first goal, really can't blame him that much. The second goal, again, it was just put beyond his reach. So very dominant performance from Manchester City, who, by the way, on paper, did the kind of starting lineup that they started with. I did not think you would not think it was strong enough to score 4 goals against Wolverhampton Wanderers. But let's be honest, Wolverhampton Wanderers have been struggling for the last 2 seasons or so. And for some people's predictions, they are going to be one of the relegation candidates this Premier League season, having lost their 2 most sort of impact players in Matheus Cunha and Ryan Ashnory, who have joined Manchester United and Manchester City respectively. So you have that, but you had James Trafford starting goal with Stefan Ortega on the bench. Of course, Ederson Morales is believed to have suffered a knock and is out injured, but it all does come amid his interest from Galatasaray. You had Ryan Ashnory, Ruben Diaz, John Stones. Didn't think John Stones was going to start the game. Rico Ruiz at right back. Then you had Nico Gonzalez alongside Tijan Reinders. What a game! What a player! I mean, for me, he takes my man of the match accolade for this particular game. For a debutant, I thought he was all over the place. He was really dominant in that midfield. He really put his name onto the mark. He did provide the pre-assist in the first goal, scored the second goal, provided the assist for the third goal. I mean, he was just really impressive overall. He was just one kind of a player that I think we all did enjoy to watch on the day. So he did start with Nico Gonzalez in that midfield. And then, I mean, we're talking about Nico Gonzalez, a player who at some point during the course of this transfer window were told Manchester City were willing to listen to offers for him. And guess what? In typical Pep Guardiola style, he starts seeing in this particular game. And he had a very good game, by the way, himself. Then Jeremy Doku, I thought was underwhelming overall. Bernardo Silva, good. Oscar Bob, but I think Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis, I think I would give them a higher player rating as compared to Jeremy Doku and Bernardo Silva. Guys, I hope I do not miss out on any of your comments. But do send them through. We'll be reading them out. We'll be giving you shout outs and reading every single comment and discussing it as it comes, if it is worthy of a discussion anyway. So Bernardo Silva did start behind Brad Erling Haaland with Jeremy Doku and Oscar Bob on the other sides. So again, it was a beautiful game of football. Matthias Nunes, of course, did come on for Rico Lewis at right back. Nico O'Reilly. This one is by the way, Rico Lewis is the target for Nottingham Forest after securing the services of James Marketing for Manchester City. Then Jeremy Doku paved the way for Omar Mamouche. Again, you looked at this Manchester City side and said, why is Omar Mamouche not starting? I mean, he's worthy of a start. Then Kushanov did come on for John Stones, who I thought equally had a very, very good game. And there it was. That was the result. So that result, 4-0, match day one, high spirits. I mean, there's by the way, a good number of people that have predicted that Manchester City will go ahead and win the Premier League title this season. I'm not one of those because I'm inclined to believe otherwise. But like I said, they will compete. However, over the course of the season, the long season, I feel that somewhere, somehow along the way, they could fall off. In any case, in my personal predictions, I did predict them to finish third on the Premier League. No, sorry, fourth on the Premier League table, with Chelsea ahead of them, with Liverpool coming second and Arsenal winning the Premier League title. Those were my predictions. Do let me know if you do agree with them or you disagree with them. I had a very, very unkind comment the other day on TikTok for a video about I did about Manchester United, saying that they were going to bounce back. However, I still predict them to finish seventh, and it didn't rub a Manchester United fan the right way. But again, those are fans with the emotions. So then quickly, Tottenham Hotspurs, I did not get to watch that game. My concentration was really on the game of Sunderland, like I told you guys, because I wanted to see how Sunderland get to play with so many new players and how they fit together. But that notwithstanding, Tottenham Hotspur still managed to cruise to a 3-0 victory. I mean, Richardson, typical Richardson fashion, doesn't score too many goals because in a good season, he will score maybe 9 or 13 goals in a Premier League season, but he's capable of scoring for you once in a while. That typical kind of goal of the season goal. You remember he did score a similar one for Brazil, and yes, he was at it with the half volley or with another Tottenham debutant in Muhammad Kudus providing the assist. So Muhammad Kudus provided the assist as Richardson picked up a brace at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, while Brennan Johnson did score the other goal on the day. It was a quick counter-attack with Pape Matsa providing the assist for that goal for Brennan Johnson, which I thought he took quite in a good way. But Martin Dubravka, he did not have a good day in office. He just did not have a good day in office. So the two starters in Brennan Johnson and Richardson were the goal scorers, with Muhammad Kudus picking a brace of assists on the day as Tottenham Hotspur equally close to a 3-0 victory, while Sunderland blew away West Ham United. Now, I did not expect this. It is a result I did not expect. Of course, some people did expect it, that Sunderland could beat up against West Ham United. I wasn't one of those people. Even though I still believe that any result is possible in the game of football, and it wasn't anything far from that, because what we had was Mayenda scoring that beautiful goal. Of course, the first half was a bit of a 50-50, but I still felt that Sunderland created the best chances. They were on the front foot. I thought in many moments of the game, they did ping West Ham back. That's what I felt. And in the 61st minute, Mayenda did score his goal with Alderete. Yes, Alderete providing the assist there for that goal. And then, of course, they had Bald score to make it 2-0. That was in the 73rd minute. While in stoppage time, Isodo did score to make it 3-0. I mean, you could see the Sunderland managers, joy and celebrations, wild celebrations, I must add. But what an afternoon for Sunderland fans were, who did fill that stadium. Granit Xhaka returning to the Premier League with his experience. I thought he led. Uh, he's the captain. He's the new captain. I thought he led the team well. He commanded that the middle of the park. And while overall West Ham enjoyed a majority of possession, which was expected, typical Graham Potter ball, but it just did not deliver. Gerard Bowen struggled to get past defenders. Lucas Paqueta in that midfield, they just could not find a breakthrough. They just could not find a breakthrough. Then Mads Hermansen, the goalkeeper, I mean, you can't really blame him much on the goals that he did concede, but that back three just did not work out for West Ham overall. Naif Agad, Max Kelman, Joan Claire Todibo, this one is a summer recruit, Malik Diouf, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I thought that midfield of Guido Rodriguez and James Ward-Prowse, in so many moments, in deciding moments, they did not compete well. But like I said, West Ham dominated possession, but it didn't count for anything. So Nicolas Fulcru, starting with Gerard Bowen as the twin, just did not work out. And maybe it wasn't their day, but looks like West Ham still have a lot to do. But yeah, so Sunderland did start with a 4-3-3 system. Again, beautiful game of football. I'm sure their manager, Regis Lee Brice, yes, Regis Lee Brice, will be very, very proud. Simon Adingra, I was really, really impressed by his performance. Simon Adingra. Tester says, how is it, man? It's all good. How are you doing, my brother? Just a bit of a cold night. That's why I have a jacket wrapped on. It did rain cats and dogs, elephants and hippos today down in Kampala, but it's all good. It's all good. So overall, Sunderland, I was really, really impressed. And if they can go with that kind of trajectory, because one, the most impressive thing about the win, or the good thing about winning on match day one, especially for a team that has just been promoted, is that you need to build momentum as soon as possible. And if you can make your home ground a fortress, that's always going to be good for you. It's going to be pivotal for your survival. Now, of course, it's early signs. We cannot pass judgment based on just one match day to say this one is going to win the Premier League title, this one is not going to get relegated because of a brilliant match day. I seem to remember there was a season, I do not remember the particular season, Wigan Athletic had a very brilliant start to the season. I think they had about 5 wins in the opening 8 fixtures, or actually thereabout, and they were off to a flying start. And by the time we winded up the season, they were almost fighting for their lives. So let's not be quick to judge in regards to the direction of how things will go. But early signs are really, really positive for teams like Manchester City, for teams like Tottenham Hotspur, for Sunderland. Really, the manner in which they handled that game. For Sunderland, it's going to be a huge motivation going into match day 2. Pretty much the same way it will be for Tottenham Hotspur. Now, match day 2 is pitting Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester City, and that's going to be a particularly very entertaining episode to watch at the Etihad Stadium. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Manchester City were walloped, I think, by 4 goals to nil last season when they did meet up against Tottenham Hotspur. And whether was that game at the Etihad Stadium or was it away from the Etihad Stadium? I'm doing great, man. Tomorrow is back to work as usual. How was your day? It's been a bit of it's been that kind of day where when it rains and every place feels cold and the ground out there is soggy, work gets a bit slow, and people's movements gets a bit limited and things like that. Some places flood, or get waterlogged and things like that. Really. So that's how I think I would define it as a very cold day. Very cold day. Yeah. But thank you so much to those that managed to catch us in the morning for our morning preview at the broadcast we did have. It was very, very, very interesting, by the way, for those of you that missed it. So, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but for those of you that remember, Magezi Chris says, what about Manchester United versus Arsenal? A Man U fan. Magezi Chris, let us discuss Manchester United in a bit. Let's first conclude with the results. But yeah, it's a game we'll speak more about. I mean, it's one that we can never avoid because no matter how many times you speak about it, for as long as it's yet to be played, it's one that continues to generate debate. And that's just the nature of the rivalry between the two sides that's between Manchester United and Arsenal. But Magezi Chris, please like the podcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel since I'm seeing you here for the very, very first time. So I'm trying to find that result, but Manchester City were walloped by 4-0 last season. I think yes, that game was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last season. So on match day 2, Tottenham are going to be up against Manchester City. That's as far as I can remember when it comes to the Premier League fixture. So I mean, let's just wait and see. But it does promise to be a very, very entertaining game. And it will be coming on Saturday early kickoff, in the Saturday's early kickoff. So that will be really, really interesting for us to break the ice for the weekend when we get into match day 2. Anyways, away from Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City, the other game was between Brighton, Hove Albion, as well as Fulham. It ended in a 1-1 draw, pretty much a perfect score for me. Although I must say I got the one for Aston Villa versus Newcastle wrong, and my prediction had been a 3-1 victory for Aston Villa, but that game ended in a goalless draw, with Aston Villa ending with a manless because they had the red card in that game for Ezri Konsa. Now, I did not get to watch that game because that's the exact time it started raining at around 2:20 p.m. East African time. Eventually, power was switched off, and yeah, I ended up missing the game. So, but it looks like there is a match I did miss because it ended in a goalless draw. Then for Fulham and Brighton, my prediction had been a 1-1 draw between these two sides, and it turned out to be a perfect score for us. But O'Reilly did score. He did score a penalty to give Brighton that much needed lead, but Fulham had to left it late to take out a point. So Matt O'Reilly's goal was cancelled out by an equalizer very, very late in the game, in the 96th minute, by Rodrigo Muniz, who, by the way, is a target for, I think, Atlanta in the Italian Serie A, was also a target for Leeds United, but Fulham, I think, said no to that proposal. So let's just wait and see. But that's been the sort of this first Saturday of the Premier League. That's how it did go down. Then in Spain, Barcelona beat up against Mallorca by 3-0. Mallorca did receive 2 red cards in that game. And guess what? They all came in the first half. As unfortunate as it sounds, one by Moriki was for a foul against Joan Garcia, the goalkeeper. Then but Barcelona, those guys really, really defended well, because when you're down to 9 men and you can limit Barcelona to only scoring 1 goal after you going down by 2 men, that's a defensive masterclass. It's a defensive masterclass. But Lamine Yamal, continues to be really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. He did score the 3rd goal, but he provided the assist for the first goal for Rafinha. Beautiful cross that Rafinha went onto and headed home. Then when you watch his 3rd goal, just go and look for Lamine Yamal's goal against Mallorca. Taking the ball from distance, of course, as you know him, playing off the right wing, cutting on the inside on his left, and bending that ball in the far corner or in the top corner. So practically that's what he did. And then the other goal was scored by Ferran Torres. Although I thought the referee did Mallorca must have felt hard done by the moment when Ferran Torres scored his that goal to make it 2-0 for Barcelona, because I think there was an attempt. I think was it by Lamine Yamal or I forget. I think by Lamine Yamal. He had a shot, an attempt that was um, deflected or blocked by a player, and that ball hit the player's head, and he went straight to the floor. Now, because it wasn't a collision between two players, the referee did not summon the medical team or did not put play to a stop. He let play continue, and in that moment, Mallorca players were sort of hesitant to go into action while they look watch their teammate down on the floor having been struck by the ball on his head, because it was less of him heading the ball than the ball hitting him. So they sort of lost concentration or relaxed a bit, hoping that the referee was going to bring the game to a stop, and then that's how Barcelona went on to score, and it became 2-0 at the time. But yeah, Barcelona off to a winning start, pretty much like Villarreal yesterday when they beat up against Rio Oviedo. As we speak, Valencia and Real Sociedad, that game is still goalless, while Deportivo Alaves are leading Levante by 0-0. Those two games are both at halftime. It's Martinez that has scored for Deportivo. Then quickly, the question now, let's get to answer Magezi Chris's submission. What about Manchester United versus Arsenal? Because I'm a fan. Now, Arsenal, I think, have only 2 victories at Old Trafford, I think, in the last 18 years. And by the way, I think I can sort of count those victories, especially in the Premier League. We're talking about the Premier League. You have to go back, first of all, to 2020, 2021, during that COVID season, to remember the most recent Arsenal victory at Old Trafford in the Premier League. You remember that season when Mikel Arteta had went 10 games with just 1 victory? That victory was against Manchester United, the penalty by Aubameyang at Old Trafford. Then, of course, predominantly in recent times, there have been draws for Arsenal at Old Trafford. And that's why my personal prediction is a 2-2 draw between Manchester United and Arsenal tomorrow. But any team, either team could easily win it. Man United could easily win it. Arsenal could easily win it. But if it had to be chances of winning it, regardless of Arsenal being a better team than Manchester United, squad-wise, pound for pound, player for player, I think if you ask me, based on last season's form, to pick 2 Manchester United players that are try and fit into that Arsenal team, I'll pick Bruno Fernandes and Bryan Mbeumo. Those are the 2 players, that I would pick out. And so you put all that aside because it's the kind of fixture that trumps form and it trumps form and status of team in terms of who has the better players and things like that. So that's why my expectation is still a draw. But if it had to be, if there was no possibility of a draw, then I would say Manchester United have a 51% chance to win it, with Arsenal having a 49%. Those are the kinds of odds I would put it at. So Man United at home, they're going to be looking to impress their fans inside that 70,000 seater of Old Trafford. That's what they're going to be looking for. 2, they're going to be looking for a result that they can give to their fans as a promise that this season is going to be better than last season. You remember? Do you remember Ruben Amorim's speech last season after the final game at Old Trafford when they beat up against Aston Villa by 2-0? He said he told them they would suffer, and they had suffered for 6 months during his tenure, and he said next season was going to be better. And indeed, for some of the things that I've seen Manchester United do in pre-season, they do promise to be a better team. However, promising is one thing and delivering can be another. Let's not forget that. But you look at the setup, the kinds of additions they've managed to add to the squad in Matthias Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, and Benjamin Sesko. Those are all goals. That's goal threat. Bryan Mbeumo, his pace can take on players. He has the strength when it comes to to physically compete. Matthias Cunha, well adapted to the Premier League, having scored 15 goals last season at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Very, very athletic, by the way. He's a goal threat. So you have Manchester United have 4 players, and depending on what kind of players they start with, they could have up to 6 players in that team that are goal threat. So let's take this assumption that, let's say, Manchester United play with their, traditional goalkeeper 3-4-2-1 kind of system. In that kind of system, you have one wing back who is typically a defender in Patrick Togu. Then you could have Amadou Diallo. We know that Amadou Diallo is a forward naturally, so that's one. Then you have Bruno Fernandes in the middle. That's two. You could have two number 10s in Matthias Cunha and maybe Mason Mount. So that's another two players. So that's already four. And then the striker, who could be Brandon Bomo, in my opinion, although he gets to play as a 10. So those are at least five players who are offensive-minded players, not six, but five, So all those are goal threats for you. Amadou Diallo is capable of dribbling past players and putting a good cross or even bend that ball himself into the top corner. Brandon Bomo is capable of that. Matthias Cunha is capable of the run and the shot from distance. We all know about the goal threat of Bruno Fernandes, regardless of where he plays, from set pieces, from distance, and things like that. So those are threats that Arsenal will have to worry about on the other end. Arsenal need to start the season well. You couldn't have stressed it any better in that simple comment, by the way. And we're going to get to the Arsenal bit side in a bit. But also, as good as a threat, or as big as a threat that Manchester United composition could be, is that also the system in itself can be vulnerable. You see, the system of 3-4-5, the system of 3-4-2-1 is a very good system if it works and if it has the right players. But once it's broken down, you can't really struggle, because usually when they go in the offense, you have the three center backs defending, then you have the single pivot, because usually the number 8, and particularly for Manchester United, this case is that the number 8 Bruno Fernandes loves to go forward because naturally he's a 10. Then that means you rest in number 6 only, and then you have Patrick Dogu overlapping and Amadou Diallo overlapping to create those overloads within that sort of offensive third, the zone between a couple of yards after the center arc and a couple of yards before the 18 yards box. That kind of belt that you see there, they try to create overloads in there. So now, if you can play out of that traffic, you know that the defense, the other side, is vulnerable with their number 6. And if you can go quickly on the counter, that's where they are oftentimes vulnerable, because you can force them into so many mistakes. And if you have the pace, you can outrun them and outnumber the defensive force that is being left behind. So that's where the system is vulnerable in its case. And when you look at some of those Manchester United defenders, they're not the most of athletic defenders, And the other thing, the beauty about that very system is that also when they get you on the break, remember how Arsenal plays with two center backs are pushed up to beyond the center line. You know how Arsenal, especially when they are being dominant in possession, they go up to the center line. And by the way, I do not know for some reason, but Mikel Arteta has failed to realize that, it's a risk he continues to take. I'm sure testers of life, you must have observed this as Arsenal play, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, or you give me your own submission. Every time Arsenal are dominant in play or in possession, you find the last defender, of Arsenal standing beyond the center arc in the opponent's side of the pitch. That's where you'll find them, That's where you'll find them standing. And what that means is that because you're already beyond the center line, you usually have the left-sided center back pushing up to support the left wing, and that's how Gabriel Magalhaes tends to play it. So you're so vulnerable that, especially on the counter-attack, and when you go back and review majority of the goals that Arsenal have conceded against Manchester United, you find that many of them have been out of that counter-attacks. So Manchester United could also look to exploit Arsenal in that style. But I think in terms, we do expect a very, very good midfield battle between. Hi, Pedri. Good to have you on the broadcast. You say Lamine Yamal, the great wonder boy, absolute perfection. Two red cards to Mallorca. Yes, we've discussed that in just before you joined us. And in fact, I particularly delayed the start of this broadcast to make sure that you had finished watching the game, to make sure you had finished watching the game. So, but I think what gives Arsenal, particularly, what I think gives Arsenal the advantage going into this game at Old Trafford tomorrow is that battle in the midfield. Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi, Martin Odegaard. If they win that battle predominantly, then they will be able to make the rest of the Arsenal team look good, and they will get goals, and the team will get goals. Who will score the goals? I do not know. It will be very impressive if Victor Gyökeres got a goal on his debut. The way we've seen Tijani Williams, the way we saw Hugo Ekitike against Liverpool, the way we've seen Ryan Cherki at Manchester City, it will be very good, very good. If you were able to get that goal, that's good, man. I'm happy that Barcelona won. Okay, so that's how I do view it. But then the other big debate for Arsenal is who starts at left back, because I think particularly at right back it's not going to be a huge debate unless otherwise the expectation is Julian Timber to start there. But at left back you have Miles Lewis Kelly, who somehow a midfielder turned defender looks a better defender at left back than a centre back turned left back in Ricardo Carafiori defensively. But going forward, then Carafiori is a better player. So it remains to be seen what it will look like or what Mikel Arteta will go with, but we'll just have to wait it out and see. But like I said, my prediction is still a 2-all draw between the two sides. Any of them can win it, but that's the prediction I'm sticking with. Pedri says good gear, good gear from Barcelona. We could have ended it 9 or 10, but we had mercy on Mallorca. Pedri, I do not think you had mercy on Mallorca. Okay, you could look at it that way, but I thought by the Barcelona, I thought Mallorca really, really defended well. Of course, once they got that second red card, even after the first red card, they knew one, the hopes of getting a point in the game were done. The hopes of winning it were, nothing short of a miracle. So what they did was to play with the low block and defend. And in the second half, that's practically what they did. They defended their goal. And Barcelona got so many corners. And it took again the intricacy of Lamine Yamal to conjure out something, of course, a cut from the right wing into the front of the sort of 18-yard box and, take that, strike, which was really, really brilliant. But I thought he was very, very good on the day. He didn't look rusty, for a player who has been in certain circles been overly criticized for over celebrating on his 18th birthday. I thought he did really, really good. We didn't put a lot of effort into scoring. Trust me, we could have scored 10 if we wanted, but Flick told Barcelona players to lower the tempo before the second red card. We scored twice. Yes, before the second red card, you scored twice. And that's what I was speaking about earlier. And I said that second goal for me, I thought Mallorca were hard done by. I thought the referee should have called the game to a stop, not as fair game, because you had a player down on the floor because the ball had struck his head as opposed to him heading it, really. We are being honest. So as soon as the ball hit his head, he went down to the floor, and you could see Mallorca players sort of look at their teammate while trying to guess where Barcelona are still trying to move the ball. And out of that, they were caught out, and Ferran Torres scored. So I thought the referee should have at least put a stop to the game, really, in that moment before Barcelona got the second goal. It's not to say that Barcelona still wouldn't have won anyway, but yeah, I thought for sportsmanship, that courtesy could have extended them. But also, I understand the school of thought that Barcelona sort of pulled down their tempo. I mean, why waste your energy if you're playing against a 9-man team? You know you're going to have majority of the ball possession, and think you're going to outnumber them, you're going to outcompete them. So you could reserve your energy a bit and not overstretch it. So we can do it easily. Testa says, I think if it was a match to define the La Liga winner and goals were the decider, then they would have easily scored 10. Anyway, we will never know. We can only speculate. But yeah, a beautiful day, beautiful game of football out there for Barcelona. And I hope that it will be a better day tomorrow for Arsenal and all the other teams that are in action tomorrow. Speaking of action tomorrow, Chelsea are up against Crystal Palace at 4 p.m. East African time, same kickoff time for Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. While Manchester United and Arsenal will come at 6:30 p.m. Celta Vigo will be up against Getafe in the Spanish La Liga, while Athletic Club will be up against Sevilla at 8:30 p.m. or as we often prefer to call it, Athletic Bilbao. Espanyol will be up against Atletico de Madrid. Anyways, we'll wait and see. Then in the French League One, there will be action there. Brest will be up against Lille. Angers will be up against Paris FC. Then Auxerre will be up against Lorient. Then Metis will be up against Strasbourg, while Paris Saint-Germain will come up against Nantes. That's at 9:45. Now, Paris FC, by the way, are neighbors with Paris Saint-Germain. Literally, I think it's more like a strip that separates their two stadiums, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how big a derby that will be going into the season, although the teams have nothing to compare when it comes to player power. Then quickly, today in the, today in the African Nations Championships, Central African Republic and Tanzania shared the spoils in a goalless draw. Those games did start at 8 p.m. while Madagascar beat up against Burkina Faso. I think Group B. Group B is done. Group B must have concluded all their fixtures. 4 games, Tanzania lead the pile with 10 points, Madagascar with 7 points in second place, as well as Mauritania in third place. Madagascar just have a better goal difference, a +2 compared to Mauritania's +1. So Burkina Faso and Central African Republic have already been sent packing. So then tomorrow we'll have some games. Kenya, I think Kenya will be up against, Kenya will be in action tomorrow. So we'll wait for that. Yeah. Kenya will be up against Zambia, while DRC will be up against Morocco to see out Group A, and then Group C will be wrapped up on Monday. Algeria up against Niger, while South Africa will be up against Uganda. By the way, I do not know how many tickets CAF put out for the game for Uganda versus South Africa, but tickets were sold out. Apparently, the ordinary tickets, because VIP tickets are apparently not being sold, they were sold out in 3 hours. And fans have been complaining. They've been trying to procure tickets. They have zero access. They're saying match sold out. I do not know, because CAF have done it before, where you have, for example, Nambole is believed to be a 40,000 seater capacity, but they've often reduced that number to about 30,000 or so fans, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see which fans will be out there. In fact, some fans have been alleging that they hope that CAF has not cut that number of fans to nearly 10,000, because they are wondering how were all tickets sold out within just a space of few hours, But that game is on Monday night, so that's when those teams will be up in action at 8 p.m. East African time. And then quickly, like I said, the transfer window is still continuing, and your favorite teams are trying to make deals. Now, there was an indecent proposal from Real Madrid, apparently. An indecent proposal from Real Madrid to Arsenal. And according to some source, and even Marca has come out to report this, Real Madrid approached Arsenal with a swap deal. Rodrigo Goes for William Saliba. And I sat there for a second thinking to myself, who is ill advising Real Madrid? Or like, one former Liverpool official once asked, what are they smoking there over the Emirates? You remember that transfer saga that involved Luis Suarez when Arsenal pressed a bid of £40 million plus £1, although it was sort of blown out of context. What are people smoking over there at the Santiago Bernabeu? I mean, there's no world in which I see Arsenal entertain a swap deal between Rodrigo Goes and William Saliba. And of course, like the reports have it, that offer or that proposal was quickly turned down with Arsenal, making it firm to Real Madrid that they would want to sign Rodrigo Goes permanently. So we'll wait and see how that does transpire in the next maybe 2 weeks before the transfer window wraps up. It appears like, I don't know, Real Madrid seem like they've not made up their mind. They know what they want in the transfer window in terms of player additions, especially in midfield. Some people think that they should get another defender. Other people think they will do okay, with what they have. But whatever the case is, we just have to wait and see. Then Sundowns had a draw with Orlando Pirates, 1-1 in the MTN 8 semi-final. By the way, excuse me. Yeah, always been a brilliant competition. The MTN 8 semi-finals. Okay, that's a good result. I wish Son of Soweto was here with us, to give us more insights from that game. Is another Mamelodi Sundowns fan there from South Africa. Then, so it looks like teams still want to trade some players here and there, but some teams are undecided. Real Madrid need to decide as soon as possible whether they're going to be signing a midfielder or not. Florentino Perez is not usually a guy that drags his feet. What's happening this time around? I know Pedri doesn't want to hear much about Real Madrid's business, but possibly he could tell us. Then Bayern Munich won the Super Cup against Stuttgart. I mean, that's not much of a surprise. I mean, it's one that you'd expect on any given day, really. So, 2-1, congratulations to them. Then Ability is pushing for a move to Tottenham Hotspurs. Tottenham Hotspurs are really keen on signing the player as well as bringing in Savinho. They've already agreed to personal terms apparently, and the player has informed Crystal Palace of his desire to join Tottenham Hotspurs. I do not know what Crystal Palace are waiting for or what is delaying the negotiations, but at least the writing is on the wall that Tottenham are interested in signing Ability Eze from Crystal Palace, as well as signing Savinho from Manchester City. Now, Pep Guardiola told the world that Savinho had been left out of the matchday squad due to an injury, and then in typical player fashion, he went and posted a photo of him. I think he put it on his Instagram, I don't know, on stories, something like that, but it was out there on social media of him in the gym. Now, of course, why would an injured player be in the gym? Unless it can be if a player is undergoing rehabilitation, but that was the case. So, but it's one of those expected that could leave Manchester City before the close of the transfer window. The same applies for Ederson Morales and Stefan Ortega, with Manchester City really pushing. According to Fabrizio Romano, they do have already a deal in principle with Gianluigi Donnarumma. That's on the side of Manchester City. So Luis Diaz, okay, yeah, Luis Diaz was one of the goal scorers. Thanks for that update, Testers of Life, for about the German Super Cup. Yeah, and he did dedicate his goal to Diego Jota. Then Nottingham Forest today did confirm the signing of James McAtee for a total package of £30 million from Manchester City, but they are still going back to Manchester City. They want to sign Rico Rose. By the way, Nottingham Forest are on a rampage. I mean, isn't it the same thing that just the other day were sanctioned for being found in breach of the PSR rules? Well, they are outspending like crazy because Kalimuendo did undergo his medical today. They confirmed James McAtee. They want Nico O'Reilly. They have reached an agreement in principle on personal terms with Douglas Luiz to join them on a permanent deal from Juventus. So, and by the way, Juventus want to sign Matt O'Reilly from Brighton, Hove and Albion as a replacement for Douglas Luiz. So there's that expectation. Then Dango Ouattara was officially unveiled as a new Brentford player in a deal worth a total package of £42 million. I mean, I'm still yet to wrap my head around this deal in terms of how teams like Bournemouth are being able to sell players that are not even starters are quite expensively, while Arsenal is struggling to offload Zinchenko, Rhys Nelson, Albert Samilokonga, Fabio Vieira. I mean, I know that Crystal Palace and West Ham did make inquiries about the availability about Fabio Vieira. Stuttgart are equally interested, but we'll wait and see. Then Pep Guardiola does still expect there to be more exits at Manchester City before the close of the window. I think he's talking about players, maybe Stefan Ortega, Ederson Morales, maybe he's talking about maybe players like Savinho, maybe players like Calvin Phillips, among those that Manchester City are looking to, part ways with. So we'll wait and see. Then Carlos Baleba, we did discuss this one yesterday. The doors are closed at Brighton, not expected to leave this summer. Then Gian Piero Gasperini, he's building quite the squad for AC Roma there. Stellenbosch FC beat up against. Oh, I'm trying to read that comment. Beat up against Skekune United by 2-0 in the MTN Super 8 semi-finals. Okay, thanks for that update. Tester of life. Thank you so much for that update. Is Pedri still with us to let us know what they're smoking over there at this Santiago Bernabeu, given their recent indecent proposal? So Nottingham Forest are still very, very busy in the transfer window. They are trying to make their moves. If Nottingham Forest get Douglas Luiz, that's going to be quite the scoop. It's going to be a brilliant signing because I think he will be a huge success for them. But yeah, and even Kalimuendo is a very beautiful addition for them from State Rents. Again, Nuno Espirito Santo is building quite the squad that will compete favorably in the UEFA Europa League as well as the Premier League next season. Even though my prediction won't change, my prediction is for them to finish at 9th on the Premier League table unless they do surprise me. Valencia up in the lead. Riendas isn't a sustainable pick. What do you mean isn't a sustainable pick? He won't score every game. Yeah, he may not score every game, and I do not think there's an expectation that he will score in every game. But I mean, he just had a man of the match performance at Molineux, and let's not take anything away from him. He was very pivotal in the build-up to the first goal. He scored the second goal, provided the assist for the third. And in each overall composition, he was really, really key. So, I mean, he just had a very brilliant game. He's quite the baller, really. And you can understand. And I think in the absence of Lodri, he's going to be sort of a formidable patch-up in that role. He did start with Nico Gonzalez, although it hadn't been my expectation, but I thought they really, really looked good in that midfield. So, yeah. I think there's no expectation that he will be scoring every game. Then also, Omari Hudson was officially unveiled as a new Nottingham player. So, I mean, just imagine Omari Hudson joining from Ipswich Town, Kalimuendo joining from State Reds. Then they get James McAtee from Manchester City. Then you add in Douglas Luiz. I mean, Jesus Christ. Are they trying to do what they did a couple of seasons back when they signed 21 players in the same transfer window? Is that what they're trying to do? Anyways, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what the transfer window will offer in the coming days. In as far as, but I think this week And next week, depending on how you do, next week and the week after that are going to be very, very crucial. But next week is going to be it's going to be a bit of a decider for most teams. It may be a bit of a make or break for some of them when it comes to player recruitment and moving on players. I know Aston Villa expect much movement in there, expect movement at Manchester City. Chelsea are looking for a defender. They want a defender so badly. So they are still trying to wrap up a deal for Alejandro Garnacho. That's also there. And Enzo Maresca wants at least, I think, 3 players in every position. Because at that right wing, you have Jamie Gittens, you have William Estaval. Is it? I mean, you want to add Alejandro Garnacho? Anyways, the selection headache will be up to him. The selection headache will be up to him to deal with. And then also, Crystal Palace did make inquiries with Leicester City over a potential deal to sign Bilal El Kanous for the 21-year-old Moroccan international there. But no deal has been agreed yet. But let's wait and see for that deal also. He's been that kind of player that has been linked with a potential move away from Leicester City, with multiple clubs interested, but none of them has firmed up to make a bid. Wrexham FC is having a bad start to their championship campaign. They have lost the opening 2 matches. I mean, it's a baptism of fire, but Real Sociedad have found the equalizer against Valencia there. Takefusa Kubo is the goal scorer. One of those players that I really, really like, Takefusa Kubo. I do really like him, and I hope he can add numbers to his game in terms of overall goals and assists. He's everything Kaoru Mitoma is, really. But if he can add numbers to his game, just scored a brilliant goal, really. Good take. Go check out that goal if you can. But brilliant goal he's managed to score. So, in regards to the championship and Wrexham, I think Wrexham, in everything, they just had, by the way, they made the record signing of about £10 million. I was reading about them. When was that? Was it yesterday or today morning? Wrexham. Things may not really fast track for them the way they've worked in the lower leagues where they've sort of made progress after progress. In any case, I'm not saying they shouldn't go for it, but I think they should also go for it, bearing in mind that it could take a couple of seasons if they are to make it to the Premier League before they make throughout the change of the championship. The championship is not any easy league. 46 games played across a campaign. 46 games. That's never easy. That's never easy to run through. But if you had to make your predictions in regards to who you think will make it out of the English Championship, who would you go for? But of course, there's action tomorrow as well. Let's look at some of those results. But who would you go for? No, maybe not the results. Do you think Leicester City will come back next season? I mean, because it's so hard, you forget that teams like Wigan have since fallen beyond that. It's so hard. Then Sheffield United, they part ways with the manager Chris Wilder after losing to the Championship playoff final against Sunderland, which for me I thought wasn't good, and now they are bottom. Sheffield Wednesday are struggling to even pay players. Their business has been all over the press, and I was thinking to myself, I'm always thinking to myself, if these teams are struggling, why not sell them off? Stoke City is top, yep. Derby County, I think the last time Derby County was good was when Frank Lampard was managing them. Anyway, I do not know. But I mean, it's only 2 games in the season, nothing to worry about. For Wrexham, I do not think it will be eyebrow rousing, really. they'll just have to hang in there and see if they can find their emoji and fight their way up at the table. All they have to do is the first season for any team, or the first responsibility for any team that has been promoted from one league to another, is avoid relegation at all costs. That's the first thing, and then build onto that and go from there. Really, so and build from there. But anyways, let's wait and see. So guys, let's go through, I think, the latest from the world of transfer gossip and speculation before we can sign out today. Manchester United are ready to accept Roma's offer of a loan with an obligation to buy for England winger Jadon Sancho, but are waiting for the 25-year-old to make a final decision. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. What's your prediction on Monday's match with Uganda versus South Africa? I feel Uganda could win it 2-1. 2-1 for Uganda. That's my prediction. However, Uganda have this kind of thing that they do. When they play a game where they must win, they draw. And when they play a game in which they should at least draw, they lose. But a draw could work for them. But to be on the safer side, they must win that game. Because if Algeria win their game against Niger, that takes them to 8 points. And if Uganda draws, then that takes them to about 7 points. And yet they should be winning. So, but my prediction is a 2-1 victory for Uganda. Dunia says hi. Hi, Dunia. Good to have you on the broadcast. So then Everton are actively looking at alternatives to Tyler Dibling after having 3 bids, the last of which was about £37 million rejected by Southampton for the England under-21 winger, according to the Liverpool Echo. Then Bournemouth have signed Ben Doak from Liverpool. I mean, I was speaking about Ben Doak in a different forum, and people were asking me, who is even Ben Doak? How is he costing that much, and what's the fuss? I'm like, he's a Liverpool wonder kid. Anyways, it was all pointing to how teams are trading between themselves. Then also, Galatasaray have made an opening bid of about £8.6 million for Manchester City goalkeeper. That's Ederson Moraes, according to Fabrizio Romano, although Manchester City feel that that fee is a little under their valuation. Then Chelsea will only sign Argentine winger Garnacho from Manchester United and Netherlands midfielder Xavi Simons, 23, from RB Leipzig, if they can offload 2 forwards. Now, yesterday we did speak about Nicholas Jackson, and I told you how the comments of Enzo Maresca, him out practically saying that Nicholas Jackson is out for sale, and players that are going to be let go by Chelsea have been training separately. The Raheem Sterlings of this world, Benoit Badiashile, I think, that cohort of players. Then also, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Napoli are all interested in Paris Saint-Germain and South Korea midfielder Lee Kang-in, 24, who is considering leaving the French club for more game time, according to Court Offside. I mean, if he's looking for more game time, I do not think Arsenal should be a destination, but that's according to Court Offside. Then Roma have agreed a deal to sign Aston Villa and Jamaican winger Leon Bailey at 28 on loan, a deal worth about 1.7 million, with a £20 million by option to buy. That's according to La Gazzetta dello Sport. Nottingham Forest have agreed a deal with Rennes for 23-year-old French striker Calmuendo, that we've discussed. He's already, completed his medicals. Then Crystal Palace have approached Leicester City. We've discussed Bilal El Kanous. Then Manchester United will revive their efforts to sign. Manchester United will revive their efforts to sign Brighton and Cameroon midfielder Carlos Baleba, 26, after the door was closed this summer. Again, we spoke about Carlos Baleba in the morning because a Manchester United fan called Gregory did ask about Carlos Baleba, and are saying the risk that Manchester United stand is losing the player, possibly for free. To other teams next summer, because he may have wanted to join Manchester United, but by the time the season ends, other teams have sort of picked up on interest, or they come with better offers, which eventually ends up working for Brighton. Oh, what a miss! What a miss! Well, so say that just missed making it 2-1 there. Then also, Chelsea have opened talks with Bayern Munich over a proposal to sell French striker Christopher Nkunku. That's according to the Mail. Bayern Munich are interested in Christopher Nkunku, but again, it's one of those deals that they've got their feet on. Then Fenerbahce are set to sign Arsenal and Ukraine fullback Alexander Zinchenko, according to Spokes in Turkish. I'm off now. Enjoy the rest of the evening, Tribe, and everyone else watching. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, Tester of Life, for being part of us today. It's been 1 hour and 5 minutes. So thank you, everybody that managed to be part of us this evening. I'm also looking to sign out. Dunia, thank you so much for being part of the broadcast. Pedri, always a pleasure to see you around. Who else? Monique? Yes, Monique. Thank you so much. And every single one of you that managed to chip in, those that like the broadcast, those that do watch our broadcasts much later after they've concluded. Oh, there's somebody I missed, the Manchester United fan. Magezi Chris. Yes, Magezi Chris, it was a pleasure having you in the broadcast. Have yourselves a blessed night, and let's meet tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.